water vapor does not linger, disperse, and white out the entire sky. Chemtrails, let's look at this.
So in beef, what we have found is as much as an 85% difference in nutrient density between grass-fed beef from animals fed in highly diverse pastures and conventional grain-fed beef. Now think about the power that that has on our health each and every day and cumulative lifetime. So beef is not beef, folks. Milk is not milk. A tomato is not a tomato. But often today we act as if they are.
Well, I just love Fred Provenza's quote where he talks about we need to start thinking about food as our medicine.
What Cooper says is, what are you paying for healthcare costs by not buying food that's really healthy for you? If you put healthcare costs and food costs in the same bucket, how cheap is cheap food?
We've been working with a different team of scientists than the Roots So Deep team, led by Dr. Stefan Van Vliet and Dr. Fred Provenza. This is the most in-depth nutritional research that's ever been done. So what we're doing is we're starting with the soil. No other nutritionists have ever done this before. We start with the soil. And so we're measuring the physical, chemical, and biological characteristics in the soil. Then we're looking at the plants and we're literally observing and watching what the animals are eating. And as we do that, then we are collecting the same parts of the plant that they're eating and analyzing that. So we analyze the soil, we analyze the plants, then we collect the fresh fecal material and we analyze that. Then we analyze the end product, the meat, the eggs, the milk, whatever it may be. And then we've added a fifth element here, and that is human clinical trials. So all of those things combined together has never, ever been done before in the annals of nutritional research.
In the budget I will present to you, we will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes.
Senator Biden, yes or no, would you allow the cities to ignore the federal law?
No.
I think we got to have tough conditions. Tell people to come out of the shadows. If they've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked.
Undocumented workers broke our immigration laws. And I believe that they must be held accountable, especially those who may be dangerous.
Now you know somebody on the inside is leaking your plans, and you can't have that.
No, and that's why we're going to take serious action, and it's under criminal investigation. I think once that word gets out and we're making it known, we're going to prosecute. We don't care if you carry a badge or gun or not. You will be criminally prosecuted, and we'll lock you up. I said from day one, we want to be transparent with the American people that we truly are concentrating on public safety threats and national security threats. But here's what people need to understand. We're going to keep coming. This is not going to slow us down. In sanctuary cities, you want to put roadblocks up? We'll double the manpower in sanctuary cities. We'll double the targeting in sanctuary cities. If we can't get them at their home, we'll get them at the workplace. We're going to increase worksite enforcement tenfold. We are not walking away. We're coming. We're not going to be stopped. We're going to keep President Trump's promise on looking for those who are in the country illegally that are a public safety threat. Nothing will stop us from doing this job.
So after Obama appointed Judge James Orsabog halted Trump's rapid deployment of Venezuelan gang members, Representative Grandin Gill, Republican from Texas, said he would be taking formal steps to impeach him. Judge who ordered deportation flights of Venezuelan gang members to be returned faces calls for impeachment. Why don't you just go ahead and put him in his house, see how long that lasts. Why does the murder of President John F. Kennedy still matter?
It matters because the murder of President Kennedy was not only a conspiracy, but a coup d'etat. The powers behind the assassination took control over the government and orchestrated the cover-up. It matters because if the government is still lying about the Kennedy assassination, it essentially means that the powers that killed John F. Kennedy are still in charge to this very day.
Since the JFK files were released, here's everything you need to know. CIA was watching Oswald before the assassination. And a man named Gary Underhill, who was connected to the CIA, fled Washington after he said that a small CIA clique was responsible, and 6 months later, he was unalived, and they said he took his own life. Where have we heard that story before? Hours before Oswald was unalived, the FBI got an anonymous tip telling them that you should protect Oswald because the same thing's gonna happen to Oswald that happened to JFK, and it's gonna be done by the same group. Despite that, no extra security was taken for Oswald, and he was unalived hours later. CIA memo says that a source told investigators that Jack Ruby and Lee Harvey Oswald met at a nightclub weeks before JFK's assassination. One that knew Ruby for years came forward and said that Ruby said he had to unalive Oswald, that there was a bigger picture, he was under a lot of pressure, and he was worried about the safety for his family. The KGB deputy director said that Oswald was never a KGB agent. Soviets were afraid that the JFK assassination would allow the United States to create an extremist plot to start World War III. Documents exposed that the CIA had 34 secret bases around the world in Africa, Europe, Asia, and Latin America. At the time, the Italian press blamed the CIA. The FBI ordered surveillance on Oswald's whole family, including his wife, fearing she could become a public voice questioning the official story. There are over 80
Data dump in progress, JFK assassination files being released. The United States government is finally releasing all the files that they have related to in the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. The data dump is in progress at 7:12 p.m. Eastern Time, March 18th. President Donald Trump had promised the release of all those files, and yesterday he said he would be released today. Well, here we are. Full Schlesinger memo advising JFK to disband the CIA. President Trump just exposed Arthur Schlesinger's full 15-page memo calling for President John F. Kennedy to break up the CIA in 1961. Schlesinger called the CIA rogue in a rogue state within a state. No one knows how many potential problems are being created by CIA clandestine operations. Schlesinger, the contemporary CIA, possesses many of the characteristics of a state within a state. There is no doctrine governing our conduct of clandestine operations. And here's a pictorial explaining who CIA agent Oswald is, CIA Cuban asset Rafael Cruz, CIA agent George H. Scherf Jr., also known as George Herbert Walker Bush, and Nazi CIA agent Dr. Mengele. He was a real sweet fella. Man to Oswald's left in the center with the tie is reportedly Rafael Cruz, the father of the man who wants to be the next president of the United States. Photograph taken August 16th, 1963, outside the International Trade Mart in New Orleans. And look at the Texas Bank Depository. Now, Bush held his hand, he stood in a very peculiar way, and you can sort of tell that this is who he is, standing right at the Texas Book Depository. He was the head of the CIA when all this was being done. So what do the JFK files tell us so far? The JFK called Joe Biden a traitor. CIA orchestrated the entire assassination, links to Mossad and Israel, ties to the Khazarian mafia. Gary Underhill was murdered after revealing it was a CIA operation.
A federal judge goes up against President Trump to try and reinstate federal workers who were sacked.
A federal judge has ruled that tens of thousands of fired federal workers must be reinstated immediately.
Well, let's talk about the absurdity of this, Stu. You have a single lower district court judge who ruled that all of these individuals need to be rehired, just usurping the executive authority of President Trump. These judges who are trying to have executive powers, if they want executive authority, they should run for president themselves. Everything this president is doing is within his executive power, and we are prepared to fight back.
Wouldn't it be crazy if you're a victim of one of the biggest scams in human history? The US dollar is backed by nothing. And you have to buy oil with American money. So the rest of the world is also a victim here, not just Americans. And wouldn't it be crazy that every day you go to work for your money, the Federal Reserve prints more? And that simultaneously means that the money you're working for is worth less as you're working for it. The very idea of the Federal Reserve was concocted in a secret meeting held on Jekyll Island back in November of 1910. And it was just top financiers, bankers. They made this up, not politicians. You see, back then, before, the US dollars could be redeemable for gold. It was backed by gold. That's what that means. And wouldn't it be crazy that in 1933, with the passing of Executive Order 6012, the American government confiscated all the gold? And I guess it'd be kind of crazy if during COVID in March 2020, there were new policies passed. And these new policies made it so that any bank within the Federal Reserve System does not have to keep reserves in their vaults or anywhere. They don't need to have reserves. So they're giving you money they don't have. In the heat of the financial crisis of 2008, it is estimated that every dollar that was in a bank had been loaned 150 times. Furthermore, borrowers, so like big companies and rich people, hedge funds, yada yada, real estate probably, the top tier borrowers get access to the freshly printed money before everyone else. So what does that mean? They get it at a lower rate when the money's worth more, and then they will, lend it out. It gets dispersed into, down to the rest of us scum. But that effectively means that by the time you get around to paying these people back, you're paying them back with money that's literally worth less value than it was when you got it. Nothing's changed, just your money is now worth less because of inflation. So it's actually not that crazy for me to sit here and tell you money's not real, but we all need it.